Do you remember your very first best friend? I do. Midnight was giving birth in the closet at the end of the hall. The repeating pattern of deep growls and shrieks woke me. Kittens! I nearly shouted as I crawled down from the top bunk. My sister stirred on the bottom bed. I paused on the ladder, held my breath, hoped she wouldn't open her eyes. After a moment, she rolled onto her side and fell back into deep sleep. I was glad she didn't wake. I wanted the kitties all to myself. Midnight continued to scream. I cracked open my bedroom door and saw my parents kneeling in the hallway, peering into the closet. They noticed I was standing there and told me to get back in bed. But I want to make sure Midnight is okay. I protested. She was mine, too. I should have been allowed to check on her. Dad refused to let me come out of the room. He said he would get me when it was over. Mom agreed with him. She said I was too little to watch. Too little? I was 4 years old and knew that babies came from a mommy's belly. Plus, I had been waiting forever to see the kittens. My parents weren't being fair. Please let me. I begged. I'll be good. Mom commanded me to go back to bed. I crossed my arms and shook my head. Dad threatened to spank me. I stomped my foot and cried, thinking a tantrum would make them understand that I was right, and they were wrong. Dad didn't care much for my new approach. He picked me up by the arm and carried me to my bed. He said to keep quiet, or else he would take the nightlight and lock me in the dark. It's not fair. I screamed, instantly regretting it. Dad squeezed my arm so tight that I began to cry for real. When he let go, I rubbed the spot, trying to make it look worse than it really was. He told me I was punished, then pulled the nightlight from the wall. No, don't, I cried out. Ignoring my pleads, Dad went back into the hall and slammed my door shut. I heard my sister sobbing from on the lower bed. I felt bad that she had to suffer for my mistake, so I climbed down and cuddled up next to her. I told her I was sorry. She was terrified of the dark, more so than I, but eventually she relaxed and fell back to sleep while holding my hand. I couldn't rest though. Midnight's persistent shuddering cries and gargling noises kept me from closing my eyes. I stared into the black, waiting. It felt like forever. I'm not sure how it happened, but the next thing I remember is Mom waking my sister and me. Come see, she urged. The sunlight coming through the window lit up her smile. The kittens were tiny versions of Midnight, 8 of them in total, all the same jet black color except for one. He had a speck of white fur above his nose, with white front paws to match. That one was mine. I knew the moment I saw him. Dad said we could give them names. It wasn't an easy task since they all looked the same. After several failed attempts to remember which was which, my sister decided the best thing to do was to call them Kitty Cat, but she was only 2 years old and pronounced it Kissie. The oddball was the only exception. He was mine to name, so I named him Charlie. Charlie was more playful than the rest of the litter. Whenever my sister and I were allowed to pick them up, he would roll on his back to let us pet his belly. Sometimes he would try to suck on our fingers, mistaking them for a part of his mother. It never failed to make my sister laugh. And sometimes, when Midnight laid down in the box to feed them, he would get turned around, managing to walk away from her. Mom would pick him up, turn him in the right direction, and say, "You're going the wrong way, Charlie." Eventually, the kittens opened their eyes. My sister and I were allowed to play with them without supervision, but only if we stayed in the hallway. Dad said we weren't allowed to take them out of the closet because they were still too small to run free. We didn't mind. Sitting on the floor petting them was one of our favorite things to do, especially when Midnight fed them. Charlie was turning out to be the rut. He ate well, but he never latched onto Midnight like the others did. While they loved to pat at her stomach and purr, Charlie was always too busy going the wrong way. No matter how many times we picked him up and faced him in the right direction, sooner or later he would get turned around again. Time went on, and the kittens got bigger. They meowed whenever someone would walk down the hall, demanding us to stop and play. Sometimes they got up on their hind legs, just barely able to peek over edge of the box. One day, my sister yelled something about the kittens. Mom and I came running from the living room to see what all the fuss was about. Charlie was in the hall, on the outside of the box, trying to correct his mistake. He clawed at the cardboard, wanting to make his way back to the other side. He kept falling over, shaking himself, then trying again. It was funny. Feeling sorry for him, Mom picked him up, gave him a kiss, and sat him next to his brothers and sisters. "You went the wrong way, Charlie," she said. That was the first time Charlie broke out of jail, but not the last. He would make it over the edge, and either Midnight or Mom would grab him by the scuff of the neck, then toss him back into the box. It happened again and again. The whole family had to help keep him where he belonged. After a while, everyone got tired of dealing with his shenanigans. We officially changed his name to Wrong Way Charlie and let him have free reign of the hallway. Even Midnight stopped caring. All the other kittens were content to stay in the box, but Charlie came and went as he pleased. He never went far, though. Sometimes he would sneak a peek into my bedroom or into the bathroom, but that was the extent of his exploration. It was easy to forget that he was only a few weeks old and too frightened to venture into any of the rooms. The box and hallway was the only world that he knew, the only place he felt safe. A few days later, I woke to the sound of Grandma's voice coming from the living room. She was talking to my sister about making her a new dress. No one told me Grandma was coming over. I thought, excited to see her, to see if she brought me a present. I jumped out of bed and ran down the hallway. I feel this soft crunch under my foot. What was that? I turned around to see what I had stepped on. Then I screamed. Wrong Way Charlie crawled toward me. The back half of him was crushed and twisted. Horrible sounds escaped from his small mouth. Mia. I continued to scream. Charlie was still trying to crawl toward me while making that resounding, awful sputter. His body trembled, and his little head twitched incessantly. Mom came running down the hall, my sister right behind her. Blood was everywhere, a trail of gore soaking into the carpet. All I heard was screaming, 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 screaming. It echoed down the hallway and throughout the years. Midnight leaped out of the closet and ran toward me. Wide-eyed, she hissed and swatted, then lapped at the blood flowing from Charlie's gaping mouth. Grandma grabbed a hold of me, held me close. My sister pressed her face into Grandma's side so she wouldn't have to see. Mom and Charlie were still screaming, still making those appalling noises. I couldn't tell them apart. It's still alive, Mom wailed. It's still alive. Oh my God, what do I do? Though Grandma tried to protect me, I couldn't look away. Charlie was crying in agony. The look on his little face said, "Why is this happening to me? What have I done? Make it stop. Please, please, make it stop. You have to kill it." Grandma shouted, angry. "Put the thing out of its misery for Christ's sake." Mom ran into the living room and turned the corner. I heard a drawer in the kitchen pulled open then slammed shut. She came running back, hammer in hand. "Eee!" Mom shrieked. She pounded the hammer down on Charlie's head, over and over and over again while Midnight attacked her, trying to protect the kitten. And yet Charlie still crawled toward me, gurgling. Mia, Mia heck. Midnight kept scratching and hissing. Mom kicked her away and brought the hammer down again. After the fifth or sixth drop, Charlie finally stopped making the awful noises. Chunks of his skull and brain littered the hallway. It was hours later before I calmed down enough to understand what had happened. Mom told me that it was okay. Dad said it wasn't my fault. They said these things as they cleaned up the mess that used to be Charlie. But it wasn't okay, and it was my fault. My kitten got hurt because of me. If I hadn't been running, my Charlie would be alive. I killed him. Charlie was my first best friend, my first responsibility, and my first introduction to death. He'll always be with me. Even now, after all these years. Every time I walk down a fucking hallway, I see Wrong Way Charlie's mangled little body crawling toward me.